You may have noticed that some people get carried from one event to another without ever questioning or giving any thought as to why life is unfolding the way that it is. They never question how did things actually become the way that they are. They end up feeling like a victim to their surroundings and sometimes even ask questions like, why me? Almost as if they're not in the driver's seat of their own life. They're like a plastic bag just being carried through the wind from one day to another, never actually understanding or planning their life. I've been journaling and writing down my thoughts now on paper for over a decade. And I can tell you that not all questions are created equal, meaning that just because you're journaling and asking yourself good questions does not mean that you are going to actually see progress. I'm going to summarize what I've learned over 10 plus years of journaling and give you the questions that have given me the most benefit. In 2019, I didn't have a business. I was a freelancer and I was working for someone else. But in 2020, I started growing and my business started making over $10,000 per month. In 2019, I was tied to a location. I couldn't leave, I couldn't travel, I couldn't do what I wanted. But in 2020, I was location free. I was attracting better friends in my life, better relationships in my life, better women into my life. Your life tends to almost magically align when the quality of your thoughts improve. I'm going to introduce you to something called the Parto Principle. It states that roughly 80% of your consequences come from 20% of your efforts. What that means for us is that 80% of your stories will roughly come from 20% of your efforts or experiences. So what I want you to do to start is write down every single positive experience that you've had over the past 12 months. Then what we're going to do is we're going to circle the very, very best ones, the ones that you look back on and that you know you're going to remember for the rest of your life. Now, chances are when you think back to your past year, you're probably majorly going to think about these experiences. So these circled experiences are your 20% that made up 80% of your happiness over the past year. The benefit of doing this is it's going to show you exactly what makes you happy and exactly what you enjoy the most. It was Ray Dalio that said pain plus reflection equals progress. And by reflection, I mean you stop, grab a notebook, grab a pen, go on your phone and set a timer for 25 minutes. And I want you to stop and just write. Just start writing about your experiences that you've had over the past 12 months. That is the best way to do this. I remember sitting in my desk job in my cubicle and I was just noticing how the wind was blowing the trees, probably procrastinating on some work that was assigned to me. And I noticed a guy that was in his 30s. And chances are I've seen this guy multiple times, but something about today. Now, this guy didn't look healthy at all. He had a Starbucks in his hand and he had a bagel in his other hand. And he was just running, just sprinting to get to work. And this wasn't uncommon, but for some reason that day it stuck out especially for me. Maybe it's because I was in a reflective mood, but I began to think that this guy probably didn't grow up thinking that he wanted to sell insurance for the rest of his life. He probably grew up and he had dreams. He had visions, he had a goal, maybe even he had a plan just like me. And what I saw scarred me because I didn't want to be that guy. So I began working like my life depended on it because I realized that it did. Every action mattered. Even if I wasn't becoming successful instantly, I needed to keep on pushing and growing as a person. Now, he could be a great guy that's living his dream life, but what this represented for me was I didn't want to wake up one day and have a midlife crisis and think about everything that I wanted to achieve and then ask myself, where did the time go? I didn't want to realize that it was too late for me. So I began sitting down, reflecting, reviewing, and really planning my life every single year, every quarter, and even every month. The second thing is going to be the people, the friendship, the relationships, the romance that you have in your life. What were the 20% of people that brought in 80% of the joy? You might have a lot of friends. You might have 10 friends, 20 friends, 30, 50 plus friends. But what are those friends that when you hang out with, you come back with more energy than before? The people that motivate you, the people that inspire you. Who were those people in your friend group? The benefit of doing this is to actually see who you should be spending more time around. We've all heard the saying, you're the average of 5 people that you surround yourself with. So now let's actually plan it and let's think about it logically. I recommend doing this at least once a year, and you can even do a cleanse of your friends. And it sounds kind of mean, but trust me, it'll be fine. Enough times that you decline their invitations and they're going to stop inviting you. And that's okay. If they're genuinely unhealthy for you and not supporting where you want to go, you don't need to be around them. The third question that you want to ask yourself is, what brought me the most anxiety? And then you want to avoid doing that in the future. There's something very, very powerful about writing this down and just having it in front of you. When you write it down on a sheet of paper, you are putting it out into the world and you're putting it to the front of your subconscious, so you know that you have to avoid that. In question 1, we looked at your best experiences. In step 2, we looked at the best people, and now we have to look at what we need to remove from your life so that you can live according to your dreams. When I did this exercise, I realized that all of my best experiences were coming from my travels and were coming from my digital nomad adventures that I did only once or twice a year. So guess what? Slowly but surely, I started taking more and more and more trips until I literally ended up just selling everything to go all in and just travel full time and really maximize my life. Question number 4 is, what is your ideal day? What do you actually want from your ideal day? If you don't know what this looks like, you are driving your car without a destination. You could be driving in circles and you would never know. You have to clearly define this so you have something to follow. Many people aren't doing things they like, their work, their hobbies. And you have to ask yourself, what is it that you actually want? Because if your goal is to go backpacking across Europe, you shouldn't wait till retirement. You're not going to be 65 and want to live out of a backpack. I'm sure there's rare occasions where people do that, but for the majority of people, you'll just be too tired or you'll have too many responsibilities. Think about your life as a video game. What would you do if you had to design your character? What skills would you give him? What abilities would you level up? What traits would you install and work on for this character? And if you really want to get to know yourself, then start asking why. As soon as you list a trait, ask, why do I want that? Why do I want this? Why do I want that? And get to the root cause of why you're doing any of this. The 5th question is, what am I avoiding? What should I be doing that I'm not doing? What am I procrastinating on? What this allows you to do is identify your weak points. Identify what are the traps that come into your life. If maybe for you that's social media, then you need to tackle that. You need to put systems in place so that you're not addicted so easily. Most people envision the perfect day and how it's gonna go, but then they never actually envision what traps are gonna be laid out. What's gonna happen when you wake up and you just feel tired? What's gonna happen when you feel distracted? What happens when your phone vibrates, then you pick it up and then you're scrolling on Instagram or freaking TikTok for 30 minutes or an hour and 30 minutes? And when you list down anything that might be intruding into your life and taking you away from your goals, it's expected, and then it's much easier to overcome, because then when it happens, you can say, oh, this thing is happening. Let me take a step back and get back on track. Ask yourself, what are the hard things that I know I should be doing? Ask yourself, why am I avoiding them? The 6th question is, what are you afraid of? Is it your parents judging you? Is it your friends looking at you and thinking that you're a loser because you're trying to start a new business or you're trying to get into some kind of new avenue and your friends just don't understand because they're doing something completely different? What is that thing that is holding you back? The social pressure. Maybe it's your dad's opinion of you or your mom's opinion of you because they expect you to go to school, and when you do grow a business, and then what they'll realize is you're not going to be the doctor that they want you to be. And the 7th question is, what content am I consuming a lot of that has had the biggest impact on my life or on my business or on anything that you are working on? What I mean is, what actually gives you value? You watching shorts in TikTok and Instagram and Facebook Reels, how much value is that giving into your life? What is it actually providing you? Chances are nothing of substance. Maybe you have a couple of YouTubers. Maybe you have a course that you're going through on Udemy, or maybe a course that you purchased from someone and it's genuinely teaching you things. Maybe you have YouTube creators that you watch for gaming, but then you have other YouTube creators that are productive and you watch those. When you make a list out of everyone that you like to learn from and that you get inspired from, then you can be more conscious about who you select to watch. The best way to answer any of these questions is to eat healthy food the night before and avoid anything that's going to give you brain fog. You want to be fresh. You want to be crisp. You want to be thinking straight when you answer these questions if you want the best answers. My suggestion is to wake up in the morning, put your phone on airplane mode, and just start writing. Don't overthink it. Have the questions pre-written on a notebook and just start writing. Start jotting down anything that comes to mind. And you don't have to dedicate an hour to this practice. Even if you sit down and think to yourself, I'm only gonna write 5 minutes or 10 minutes. Once you start writing, it gets much easier, and you might even look up and realize that you've been writing for 30 minutes or an hour. Even if you have to do these questions before work and you could only get one done per day, that's still a lot of progress. And from there, you can start making conscious decisions on where to take your life.